Hi. Satan would love to destroy your marriage because strong nations are built upon strong marriages and strong families. And he's doing a great job of destroying even Christian marriages through adultery, especially, it seems like, or dissatisfaction. So, what I want to do is I just want to go through a way to help you to not allow Satan to destroy your marriage, and how I don't have a perfect setup here. And how one way that we can try to prevent Satan from destroying our marriage. Because in this passage, we are told that Satan will use this to destroy our marriage. And it's in 1 Corinthians 7. And it starts off that it is not good for man to touch a woman, yet nevertheless to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. So God ordained marriage, and one of the reasons he ordained it is because it's better to marry than to burn. And most people burn, and so most people should be getting married. We could see it with our highly sexualized culture that most people are burning and they need to be married. They don't need to be looking at porn or sleeping around before marriage or during marriage. They need to get married, become one flesh, until death do they part. And then it says, let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto her husband. The wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband, and likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one the other. So that means don't deprive each other sexually. And there's only one reason given here that you can step away from sex for a little while. Not a bunch of different reasons, not because you're not in the mood or whatever. Here's the reason. Except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer. So if you want to not have sexual intimacy for a few days, so you can fast and pray and focus upon the Lord, or something's really big happening in your life that you really feel like as a couple you need to really fast and pray about something, then that's a time to be separate, not have sexual intimacy. But there's a big but here. And come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. Okay, what's incontinency, you say? What's that big word? Okay, what's Satan going to tempt us here? I have Gill's exposition of the Bible, and he's one of my favorite old commentaries to go to. I use them quite a bit in my blog post. And this is what he says about Satan not tempting us for our incontinence. Let's see. Satan, who knows the temperate and disposition of men and women, he knows that we are, we're fallible. We make really bad decisions at times. We are swayed easily by our lust and our passions. We too easily walk in the flesh. So he said, may tempt them not only to hatred of and quarrels with one another. Just think about that. When you're hating and quarreling with your husband, that's Satan tempting you. It's not from God. God wants there to be peace among us. Hatred and quarreling tear a home down faster than anything else. But to impure lusts and desires, to fornication, adultery, and all uncleanness. A very good reason why, though abstinence from the marriage bed for a short time by the consent of both parties for religious purposes may be lawful, yet ought not to be continued, since Satan may hereby get an advantage over them and draw them into the commission of scandalous enormities. So Satan uses, if you're continually, I'm speaking to women here. I know there's women who are being deprived from their husbands, and I'll put a link from a post of a friend of mine who wrote a post about that. But if you're continually depriving your husband of sexual intimacy, and it's not because of sickness or just having a birth of a child or something, but you just don't want it, you are opening up a wide door for your husband to commit adultery. And if he's going off to work every day, there's a ton of strange women out there. That's what Proverbs calls women who will have no problems having affairs with married men. They're strange women. So they will go after men, and they will start, caring about those men and listening to those men, and doing things that the wives aren't giving them. And they will be tempted and maybe even fall into adultery. I know too many Christian marriages where the husbands have fallen into an adultery. And I'm not here to say to put the blame on the wife, because it's their sin only. But when a wife deprives her husband, that's her sin. And I don't know if these wives were depriving their husbands, but when the Bible is very clear, when we're depriving our husbands sexually, there's a good chance that Satan will tempt them to go elsewhere. This is a warning to us. It's a warning to men too, because it says we're not to deprive each other. We don't have power over each other's bodies, but I don't teach men. So we're not to deprive our husbands sexually. And to protect him, it's protection of our marriage. It's protection from Satan attacking our marriage and destroying our marriage. So be a wise woman. Love your husband. Be affectionate with your husband. Be warm with your husband. Don't quarrel with him. Build him up. Just, love him, women, and obey him. Live in submission to him. Because if you're quarreling, that shows you're not living in submission to him. If you're depriving him sexually, it shows you're not living in submission to him. And you don't want to fool around with that. You don't want to disobey God in these areas, because if Satan is allowed to tempt your husband, draw him away in adultery and tear your marriage apart, it affects generations to come. Protect your marriage as much as to your ability. If you're not depriving your husband and your husband goes off and has an affair, the entire fault lays upon him. But if you're depriving him and he goes off and has an affair, the fault lies on both of you, because we're warned not to deprive our husbands. So anyway, women, this is my little rebuke to you today. For any of you who are, and there's definitely cases where you can't have sexual intimacy, and hopefully you have a decent husband who understands that. But in all other cases, be very sexually available to your husband. Bye-bye.